All right, ready to dive deep into the world of meditation with Osho.
Always ready for a deep dive.
So we've got these excerpts from The Path of Meditation, right?
Right.
And it seems like we're really going to explore, what really makes meditation tick, like beyond just the surface level stuff.
Absolutely. And Osho's not one to hold back, is he?
No, he is not.
He jumps right into those complexities of human nature and all the hurdles we encounter on that path to inner peace.
Yeah, and he definitely has a unique way of looking at things.
Oh, absolutely.
So from the material you've reviewed, what kind of core themes really jump out at you?
Well, one of the first things that grabbed my attention was Osho's take on authenticity. He's not a fan of just casual curiosity when it comes to meditation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he thinks a genuine longing for truth and something bigger than ourselves, that's crucial.
So it's more about a deep inner yearning than just a sort of passing interest.
Exactly. He uses the powerful analogy of a blind man who's, holding onto a stick. He's convinced it's a snake.
Oh, wow.
To illustrate how we cling to those illusions, even when they might be harmful.
That's a pretty striking image. It sounds like he's really pushing us to question our beliefs and dig a little deeper.
He is.
Yeah.
And he lays out a path for doing just that. He highlights the importance of contemplation, really reflecting on life, death, and our place in the universe. He believes that this kind of introspection can awaken a genuine desire for something more, something beyond the superficial.
Kind of like Buddha, right? When he encountered old age and sickness, and it led him to seek enlightenment.
Precisely. He uses that very story to demonstrate the power of contemplation. He also emphasizes cultivating optimism during meditation.
Optimism.
Yeah, he thinks a positive outlook helps to create a more fertile ground for inner transformation.
You wouldn't normally associate optimism with some of the more, intense aspects of spiritual seeking.
Right, it seems a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But Osho argues that this optimism actually helps us break down the resistance we often have to change.
Okay.
He even shares a story about a man whose wife's anxieties actually decreased significantly after she embraced the more optimistic perspective.
Wow. So our mindset plays a big role then.
Huge role.
Okay. But what about the physical aspects of meditation? Does Osho talk about that at all?
He absolutely does. He refers to the body as a temple,
Okay.
sometimes even a battleground where unreleased energy from anger, frustration, or other pent-up emotions can create blockages.
So it's not just about sitting quietly and trying to empty your mind.
Not at all. Osho offers some practical techniques for releasing these blockages, things like consciously contracting and relaxing muscles. He emphasizes body purification as a foundation for deeper meditative experiences.
That makes sense. It's like decluttering your space before you can really settle in and focus.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. He also encourages finding creative outlets for our energy. He argues that if we don't channel it constructively, it can become destructive. Comparing it to a child's boundless energy that needs a healthy outlet.
So finding healthy ways to express ourselves is key.
Absolutely. He sees creativity as a powerful tool for transformation.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. What kind of creative outlets is he talking about? What does he suggest?
He keeps it pretty open-ended, encouraging us to explore anything that allows for authentic self-expression, whether it's painting, dancing, writing, or even something like gardening. The key is to find what resonates with you.
It's about tapping into that inner child, right?
Exactly.
Finding joy in creating.
Exactly. And, Osho connects this creative energy to our sexuality, too.
Oh, here's where things get interesting. What does he say about that?
He believes love is the key to transforming sexual energy, overcoming that constant need for external validation.
So it's not about suppressing or denying our sexuality, but about channeling it in a different way.
Yes. Osho is very clear about that. He even challenges the notion that, we always love. He distinguishes between genuine giving and what he calls needy expectation.
That's an important distinction. What does he mean by needy expectation?
He's talking about the kind of love that's all about getting something back, a kind of transaction.
Okay.
Rooted in a sense of lack.
Okay. And genuine giving is?
It's about expressing love freely, without strings attached, recognizing the abundance within ourselves and sharing that with others.
So it's about shifting our perspective then, from scarcity to abundance.
Precisely. And this shift, according to Osho, is crucial for transforming our relationship with sexuality.
This is all fascinating, but I'm wondering how this ties into the idea of strength and weakness. You mentioned earlier that he has some unconventional views on that as well.
He did. He points out this fascinating paradox that we often feel powerful in hostile situations, fueled by anger or aggression.
Right.
Yet we feel weak and vulnerable in peaceful ones.
That is so true. I've definitely noticed that in myself.
Osho suggests this actually reveals the dominance of what he calls impure emotions in our lives.
Yeah.
And these emotions, he says, are rooted in the ego, which thrives on conflict and separation.
So true strength comes from a place of inner peace and connection.
Exactly. He suggests that when we tap into that deeper wellspring of love and compassion, we become truly unshakable.
That's a beautiful concept. But it also sounds incredibly challenging to cultivate,
It is.
that kind of inner strength.
But Osho offers some guidance.
Okay.
He encourages us to become more aware of the difference between what he calls intrinsic and extrinsic love.
What does he mean by that?
Well, intrinsic love is a state of being. It's unconditional, independent of any external validation or trigger.
Okay.
Extrinsic love is the kind of love that's based on external factors like someone's appearance, their behavior, or social status. It's conditional, often fleeting.
So he's advocating for a more profound, unconditional kind of love.
Yes. He uses a powerful story about Jesus encountering a prostitute to illustrate this point.
That's an interesting pairing. What's the significance of that story?
Well, in Osho's interpretation, Jesus represents that embodiment of intrinsic love. He's not swayed by the woman's profession or her social standing. He sees her inherent worth and loves her unconditionally.
That's a powerful message, especially, considering the stigma surrounding prostitution.
Exactly.
Even today.
He uses this story to emphasize that transformative power of true love.
Yeah.
When we access that wellspring of unconditional acceptance within, that's when we can begin to heal ourselves and the world around us.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack here. So far, we've covered authenticity, contemplation, optimism, the need for physical purification, creative expression, transforming our sexuality, and the paradox of strength and weakness.
That's a lot.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What else stands out to you from what you've read?
Kind of building on that idea of love and acceptance.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how Osho views true religion.
Okay.
For him, it's not about escaping the world, but transforming our consciousness within it.
So he wouldn't advocate for retreating to a monastery or becoming a hermit or something like that?
Not necessarily. He actually encourages us to embrace life's challenges as opportunities for growth. Using every interaction as a chance to cultivate those qualities of love and compassion, even the difficult ones.
That's a powerful perspective. I mean, it takes the pressure off of needing to find some, isolated, perfect environment for spiritual practice.
Exactly. It's about the real work happening right here, right now.
Yeah.
In the messy, unpredictable realm of daily life.
So how do we do that? How do we use everyday experiences to actually cultivate those qualities?
Osho pushes us to move beyond just reacting to things, to engage in conscious, deliberate action. True change, he says, comes from within. It's not dictated by external circumstances.
Well, that's easier said than done, right? Especially when we're feeling stressed or triggered.
It is. It takes practice. But, he reminds us that everyone is capable of taking a single step towards inner transformation. He says that consistent effort over time, that's what leads to profound change.
So it's about those small daily choices we make, like how we react to a difficult coworker, or how we treat a stranger, or even how we talk to ourselves when we make a mistake.
Precisely. He even uses the simple act of moving a stone out of the road as an example. Yeah. It's a seemingly insignificant act, right?
Yeah.
But it cultivates this sense of care and consideration.
I love that. It shows how mindfulness can be woven into the most ordinary tasks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also stresses the importance of taking action immediately when it comes to good deeds. Yeah, he warns against procrastination.
Why that sense of urgency?
Well, he reminds us that, tomorrow's uncertain.
Right.
He tells this story about a young man who hesitates to ask a spiritual teacher a question,
Okay.
only for the teacher to die the next day.
Wow. That's a powerful reminder to seize the moment for sure.
It is. And it applies, not just to big spiritual quests, but also to those everyday opportunities to express kindness and compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into this idea of taking action. Osho talks a lot about the need for purification
Right.
of the body, thoughts, and emotions. How does he suggest we approach that?
He outlines a multifaceted approach. It involves releasing old, blocked energy, creatively transforming new impulses, and cultivating love and compassion.
That sounds like a pretty thorough process.
It is.
I mean, where would we even begin?
Well, he gives some concrete techniques. He suggests things like consciously contracting and relaxing muscles, to release tension,
Okay.
finding creative outlets to channel energy constructively. He also emphasizes cultivating positive emotions like optimism and gratitude.
So it's a holistic approach then. It involves both physical and mental practices.
Exactly. He even suggests imagining yourself exercising or engaging in physically demanding activity.
Really?
Yeah,
To activate the body's energy centers. I've never heard of that technique before.
it might sound unusual, but Osho argued that the body doesn't really differentiate between a real experience and an imagined one.
So if we vividly imagine ourselves running, our bodies will respond as if we're actually running.
To a certain degree, yes.
Yeah.
Think about waking up from a frightening dream, right?
Right.
Your heart's racing, even though the fear was only in your mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. Our bodies are incredibly sensitive to our thoughts and emotions.
Precisely. And Osho believed we could harness this mind-body connection to facilitate healing and transformation.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this concept of emptiness.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Osho challenges the idea of meditating on something.
Right.
He seems to suggest that true meditation is about cultivating this empty, receptive state.
Yes, he uses the term emptiness
Yeah.
to describe a state of pure awareness, free from all that clutter of thoughts and emotions and attachments.
So it's not about forcing our minds to go blank, but about creating space for something deeper to come through.
Exactly. He compares it to empty a cup so it could be filled with fresh water.
That's a great analogy. It really highlights that receptive aspect of emptiness.
Yeah. And Osho emphasizes that this state of emptiness, it's not something we can just force
Right.
or achieve through sheer willpower.
Right.
It's about surrender, letting go of our need to control.
So how do we cultivate that sense of surrender?
Well, he offers a number of practices, including focusing on the breath, visualizations, and simply becoming more aware of the space between thoughts.
Those are pretty, classic meditation techniques. What sets Osho's approach apart?
It's his emphasis on truly grasping those underlying principles.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to just blindly follow instructions.
Right.
He wants us to engage with meditation as a journey of self-discovery.
So it's about bringing a sense of curiosity and exploration to our practice.
Exactly. He believes this kind of active engagement, that's what's crucial for experiencing that transformative power of meditation.
There seems to be this recurring theme, in Osho's teachings. He constantly challenges us to question our assumptions and go beyond the surface level.
You're absolutely right. He believed that true understanding comes from direct experience,
Yeah,
not from blindly accepting, dogma or tradition.
that makes a lot of sense. But I'm curious, how does Osho address those real challenges we face in trying to, live a more conscious and compassionate life? I mean, the world can be a pretty tough place.
He doesn't shy away from those challenges.
Okay.
He acknowledges the difficulties, but he also emphasizes that transformative power of love.
Okay.
He believed that even small acts of kindness can create this ripple effect, leading to a more compassionate world.
That's a really hopeful message. It gives me a sense of agency,
Yeah.
even amidst the chaos.
Yeah. He also reminds us that we don't have to do it alone.
Okay.
He stresses the importance of community and connection. He even suggests visualizing yourself surrounded by loving and supportive people.
That's a beautiful practice. It can be so easy to feel isolated and overwhelmed when facing life's challenges.
Exactly. And Osho's teachings provide that framework for cultivating a sense of belonging and interconnectedness.
Yeah. This has been a truly insightful deep dive into Osho's The Path of Meditation. We've covered a wide range of topics from, the importance of authenticity and taking action to the cultivation of emptiness and the transformative power of love. I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more. So let's move on to part 3, where we'll delve even deeper into these fascinating concepts. As we've been exploring these ideas, I keep coming back to this tension between discipline and surrender. They both seem so central to Osho's teachings, but they feel almost like opposites,
Yeah, that's a really interesting observation, and it's a tension that Osho addresses head on. He talks about discipline not as some rigid structure or forcing ourselves into uncomfortable postures. Instead, he sees it as conscious, deliberate action aligned with our deepest values.
So it's about being intentional with our actions rather than just going through the motions.
Exactly. He uses this great analogy of a boat, that's tied to the shore.
All right.
We can sit in the boat and dream about, far off lands, but unless we untie the ropes, we'll never get there.
That's such a vivid image, and those ropes represent our attachments, our fears, our limiting beliefs, all those things that are holding us back.
Precisely. Osho's saying that discipline involves the willingness to let go of whatever's keeping us stuck.
So it's a process of letting go and taking charge at the same time.
It is. It sounds paradoxical.
It does.
But Osho believed that true freedom comes from this paradoxical embrace of both discipline and surrender.
I'm also curious about his views on, the relationship between meditation and enlightenment. Does he see enlightenment as something that we can achieve through meditation?
He does, but he makes it very clear that enlightenment isn't some destination we arrive at,
Right.
It's a transformation of consciousness.
Okay.
That unfolds through the practice of meditation.
So it's not about checking things off a list or earning a badge it's about the journey itself.
Exactly. He compares it to the blooming of a flower.
Okay.
It's a natural process. It unfolds in its own time, but it needs the right conditions.
In those conditions.
The things we've already been discussing, cultivating awareness, purifying the body and mind, letting go of attachments, and surrendering to the present moment.
Earlier, that story about the blind man, clinging to the stick, convinced it's a snake.
Right?
It's such a powerful metaphor for how tightly we hold on to our illusions.
Yeah.
But how do we actually break free from those illusions?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is, when they can be so deeply rooted.
Osho offers some guidance. He talks about the importance of self-honesty, being willing to see ourselves clearly, even when it's uncomfortable.
So it's about facing our shadows, those parts of ourselves we'd rather, keep hidden.
Exactly. He also emphasizes, finding a spiritual guide or a teacher who can help us see those blind spots we all have.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can be so hard to be objective about ourselves.
Right.
We all have our biases and defenses.
Right. And a skilled teacher can provide that support and guidance we need to navigate those tricky internal landscapes.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about Osho's vision for the future. You mentioned that he sees a future where science and religion are integrated.
Right.
But how would that actually look? I mean, what would that integration look like in our everyday lives?
Osho believed that this integration would lead to a more balanced and harmonious society.
Yeah.
Where technological advancements are guided by ethical principles.
So it's about ensuring that our technological progress actually benefits humanity.
Exactly.
Rather than exploits it.
He saw this integration as essential for a more peaceful and sustainable world.
It's a compelling vision, but it also feels very challenging to achieve, given the current state of the world.
It is challenging, but Osho reminds us that change begins with each individual. He believed that as more and more people awaken to their true nature, the world will reflect that transformation.
So it's about embodying the change we want to see in the world.
Precisely. And Osho's teachings provide a roadmap for that inner transformation.
This deep dive has been so insightful. Osho's ideas are definitely thought-provoking, challenging us to to really examine our own motivations and approach to meditation.
He definitely pushes us beyond that simplistic understanding of meditation as just a relaxation technique.
Yeah.
Osho reminds us it's a journey of self-discovery,
Mm.
requiring, courage, honesty, and a deep longing for something more.
So, for our listener, what's the one nugget of wisdom they should take away from this deep dive?
Maybe it's just the reminder that true transformation begins with a single conscious step. And while the path might seem daunting at times, the potential for experiencing profound peace and joy is well worth the effort.
Beautifully said. And for you, dear listener, if this deep dive has sparked a flame within, don't wait for tomorrow. Take that first step today. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Right.